The galaxy would remember this day for many reasons, but not because of fleets, weapons, or kings. It would remember this day because one stubborn human doctor walked into a ruined hut and refused to let a child die. The smoke on Meridian Station had a strange color. It was not black, not gray. It shimmered with a faint violet glow, like the station itself was bleeding light into the air. Dr. Elias Rowan pulled his collar over his mouth as he stepped through the wreckage of the agricultural sector. Hydroponic towers lay broken like fallen giants. Pipes hissed softly. Somewhere in the distance, metal collapsed with a hollow echo. His scanner beeped once. Then again. Elias stopped walking. "Come on," he muttered quietly. "Don't be ghosts." Most soldiers ignored weak life signs in war zones. Too risky. Too inefficient. But Elias was not a soldier. He had argued with generals before. He had lost arguments. But he had never lost his reason for becoming a doctor. 2 life signs. 1 adult. 1 child. Both unstable. The signal led him toward a small storage hut leaning against a cracked wall. The door was bent inward. Smoke curled from the roof. Anyone hiding there had chosen desperation over safety. He tapped his comm. "Sector sweep negative," he said calmly. It was not a lie. He had not finished sweeping. He muted the channel. Then he stepped inside. The air was thick. Ash covered the floor. Broken crates lay scattered. In the far corner, 2 glowing eyes reflected the pale blue light of his scanner. The woman moved first. She stepped forward, placing herself between Elias and the child in her arms. Her posture was defensive, ready to fight, even though she clearly had no weapon. Elias raised both hands slowly. "I'm a doctor," he said gently. "Not a soldier. I'm here to help." The scanner light revealed her face. She looked almost human. Almost. Her skin carried a faint silver tone. Her ears swept back elegantly, marking her as Olori, a species currently at war with humanity. Her eyes were wide, filled with exhaustion and grief. The child in her arms coughed. It was a small sound, but Elias had heard enough dying children to recognize the danger immediately. "I need to see him," Elias said softly. "You are human," she whispered. "Yes. You are our enemy." "Not today." The child's breathing rattled again, sharper this time. Elias took 1 slow step closer. "If I wanted to hurt you," he said, keeping his voice steady, "I wouldn't have announced myself." The woman hesitated. Then, slowly, she lowered her arm. Elias knelt in front of them. The child, a small boy, maybe 4 years old, was burning with fever. His skin was too warm. His breathing shallow. Smoke inhalation mixed with infection. "How long?" Elias asked. 2 days, she replied. "I tried to cool him. I tried herbs. Nothing works." Elias opened his medical kit. "You're lucky," he said quietly. "Humans are very stubborn about keeping children alive." He scanned the boy. Toxin levels high. Lung inflammation severe. Oxygen dropping. Outside, distant engines roared. Patrol ships. Time was short. Elias loaded a medical injector. "This will sting," he said gently to the boy. "But you're going to feel better soon." The woman watched every movement, ready to strike if he made a wrong one. The injector hissed. The child flinched. Then coughed again, but this time, the breath came deeper. Elias checked the scanner. "Good," he whispered. "Very good." The woman stared at him in disbelief. "You would help us?" she asked. "You have a sick child," Elias replied. "That's all I see." Silence filled the hut. Then the woman spoke quietly. "My name is Lyara." Elias nodded. "I'm Elias." She hesitated before speaking again. "I'm not just a refugee." "I guessed," Elias said lightly. Her eyes hardened. "I'm Princess Lyara of the Olori court." Elias blinked once. "Of course you are," he said calmly. "Because my day wasn't complicated enough." For a second, Despite everything, Liara almost smiled. Then her face grew serious again. "They killed my escort," she said. "This was a secret peace mission. Someone betrayed us. My sister died protecting my son." Elias looked at the child. "Your son?" She shook her head. "My sister's child. His name is Kale. He is the last of her line." The weight of those words settled heavily in the air. Outside, boots crunched on debris. A patrol was moving closer. Elias checked his comm. He had maybe 10 minutes before someone noticed his signal was not moving. "You can't stay here," he said. "They will execute me," Liara replied. "Or use me." Elias stood slowly. "Then we don't let them find you. You would risk your life for an alien princess." He looked at her evenly. "I'm risking my life for a child who deserves a future." Kale's breathing steadied further. Color returned to his cheeks. Liara looked down at the boy, then back at Elias. "Why?" she asked quietly. Elias thought about it. About the war. About politicians who spoke of strategy while children suffocated in smoke. "Because humans are very creative when we're told something is impossible," he said. Outside, a voice echoed through the sector. "Final sweep in 5 minutes." Elias moved quickly now. "There's an old evacuation bay in the secondary hub," he said. "Abandoned. If we reach it, I can modify a pod. It won't be comfortable. It won't be safe. But it will give you a chance." "That is madness." "Yes," Elias agreed. "But humans are very good at madness when it saves lives." Liara studied him carefully. "You understand this will make you an enemy of your own people." Elias gave a small shrug. "I've disagreed with my own people before." Boot steps grew louder. Decision time. Liara tightened her grip on Kale. Then she nodded. "Lead the way, Doctor." Elias smiled slightly. "Try to keep up, Princess." And together, a human doctor, an alien royal, and a feverish child, stepped into the smoke-filled ruins, unknowingly starting a chain of events that would shake 2 civilizations. Because sometimes, the smallest act of defiance becomes the spark that changes the galaxy. The soldiers were less than 3 corridors away when the human doctor chose to betray an army. Elias moved fast but not recklessly. Panic killed more people than bullets ever did. Smoke rolled through the broken sector in heavy waves, distorting light and shadow. Emergency sirens hummed in the distance, low and tired, like the station itself was exhausted from war. "Stay close," he whispered. Liara followed, holding Kale tightly against her chest. The boy was breathing better now, but he was still weak. Every few seconds, she checked his face as if afraid he might disappear. Behind them, boots scraped against metal. Thermal reading just spiked. A soldier's voice echoed faintly. Elias did not look back. He switched off his visible scanner light and activated passive mode. Then he pulled something small from his belt, a compact field projector used for emergency triage privacy. He flipped it on. The corridor flickered. 3 false heat signatures appeared ahead of them, running in the opposite direction. Liara stared at him. "You can bend surveillance." "I can confuse lazy surveillance," Elias replied. "There's a difference." The soldier voices shifted. Movement detected towards Sector 8. "Good. Let them chase ghosts." They turned sharply into a maintenance passage barely wide enough for 2 people. The lights here were dead. Only thin strips of emergency glow traced the floor. Liara spoke quietly. "You planned this." "No," Elias said honestly. "But humans are very good at improvising when plans fail." They moved deeper into the station. The war between humans and the Allori had lasted 7 years. 7 years of pride, fear, and terrible decisions. Both sides claimed righteousness. Both sides buried children. Elias had seen enough to stop believing in clean narratives. Suddenly, the corridor ahead flickered blue. A drone hovered into view. Liara froze. The machine scanned the passage. Elias acted instantly. He stepped forward into full view, raising his hands casually. "Medical officer," he said loudly, responding to radiation pockets. The drone scanned him. "Identify secondary life form," it demanded. Elias did not hesitate. "Pediatric patient. Human. Smoke inhalation." Liara understood immediately. She shifted Kale's silver ear beneath her hand, hiding it against her chest. The drone's scanner beam passed over them. Elias prayed silently. There was a pause. Then the drone turned away. "Proceed," it said flatly before gliding down another corridor. Liara exhaled slowly. "You lied without fear." "I was terrified," Elias admitted. "I just didn't let my face know." They reached a junction overlooking the lower hub. Below them lay the abandoned evacuation bay. Old pods rested along cracked docking rails. Most were decommissioned after newer models replaced them. No one had updated their software in years, which made them perfect. Elias crouched behind a railing. "Okay," he said softly. "This is where it gets complicated." Liara studied the bay. "There are guards." 2 Terran soldiers stood near the main access door. "Routine check," Elias muttered. "They won't expect anyone to use these relics." He looked at Liara. "Can you carry Kale and run?" "Yes." "Good." Elias pulled out his comm and switched channels. He accessed the station's medical alert frequency, high priority. Then he pressed transmit. "Emergency code Sigma 3, he said urgently. "Structural collapse in Sector 12. Possible reactor breach. All available units redirect immediately." The lie moved like lightning. Within seconds, alarms shifted tone. The 2 guards looked at each other. Their comms buzzed. "Sector 12. One muttered. They ran. Liara looked at Elias in disbelief. "You can command their systems." "No," he said. "But humans built them. And humans forget to update emergency protocols." They sprinted down the stairs. Inside the bay, Elias rushed to the nearest pod. Dust covered its surface. The screen flickered weakly when he powered it on. "Come on," he whispered to the machine. The system booted slowly. Liara stood watch, eyes scanning for threats. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Teaching old technology new tricks." He opened the navigation panel. Evacuation pods were designed for short emergency jumps, usually to nearby stations. But Elias began rewriting the coordinates manually. "You cannot reach neutral space," Liara warned. "Not directly." He pulled another device from his kit, a medical energy cell. He connected it to the pod's auxiliary input. "This will overload the jump drive. That will destroy it." "Only after one extended burst." Liara stared at him. "That is not safe." "No," Elias agreed. "It's human." He adjusted the trajectory. Instead of one long jump, he programmed multiple microjumps in rapid sequence. The pod would leap unpredictably, changing direction each time. Impossible to track. Extremely unstable. Brilliantly reckless. Kale stirred in Liara's arms. His eyes opened halfway. He looked at Elias. "Cold," the boy whispered faintly. Elias knelt beside him. "You're going to see stars soon," he said gently. "Lots of them." Liara's voice trembled slightly. "You are not coming with us." It was not a question. Elias shook his head. "If I disappear too, they'll know something bigger happened." "You will face punishment." "Probably." She stepped closer. "Why do humans do this?" she asked quietly. "Risk everything for strangers." Elias thought for a moment. Then he smiled softly. "Because we've been strangers before." Alarms suddenly blared again, this time real. The false Sigma alert had been corrected. Security teams were redeploying. "Time's up," Elias said. He opened the pod hatch. Liara stepped inside carefully. Before sealing it, she turned to him. "You have changed more than you know, Dr. Elias." "Try not to start a war in my name," he replied lightly. Kale reached out weakly. His small hand grabbed Elias's finger. For a moment, the entire war faded into nothing. Just a child. Just a human. Just a choice. Elias squeezed gently. Live, he whispered. The hatch closed. Elias slammed the launch sequence. The pod roared. Energy surged violently through the outdated systems. Outside, soldiers rushed into the bay. What are you doing? One shouted. Elias raised both hands calmly. Improvising, he answered. The pod exploded forward in a burst of blinding light. Then vanished. Silence followed. Every scanner in the bay blinked in confusion. No trajectory lock, a technician yelled. It's jumping, again, and again, I can't track it. Elias allowed himself one small breath of relief. Liara and Kale were gone. Free. Maybe not safe. But alive. Two soldiers grabbed him roughly. You're under arrest for aiding enemy combatants. Elias did not resist. He looked once at the empty docking rail. Then back at the furious officers. Worth it, he said simply. Far away, in deep space, the small damaged pod executed another impossible microjump. Inside, Liara held Kale tightly as stars bent and twisted outside their window. The child's fever continued to fall. And somewhere in the chaos of human design and reckless courage, hope survived. They locked Dr. Elias Rowan in a cold metal room and told him he had committed treason. He asked for water. They gave him silence. Outside the holding chamber, Meridian Station buzzed with controlled panic. Command officers argued over corrupted navigation logs. Analysts replayed security footage of the impossible escape. No one could understand how an outdated evacuation pod had performed 15 consecutive microjumps without tearing itself apart. Human engineers called it a malfunction. Military leaders called it sabotage. But quietly, in labs and control rooms, a few whispered a different word. Brilliant. Elias sat calmly in his chair, hands resting on the table. His face showed no fear, only exhaustion. The door slid open. Admiral Corvin stepped inside. Tall, sharp uniform, eyes like polished steel. You realize, the Admiral began coldly, you may have altered the balance of this war. I hope so, Elias replied. Corvin studied him. You aided an enemy royal. I treated a sick child. You sabotaged military authority. I repurposed neglected equipment. The Admiral's jaw tightened. You are not a hero, Doctor. Elias leaned back slightly. I never asked to be. There was a long silence. Then Corvin tapped the table screen. An image appeared. The escape pod. Still jumping. Still evading tracking systems days later. We cannot follow it, Corvin said. Every predictive model fails. The jump pattern is chaotic. It's not chaos, Elias replied calmly. It's human pattern disruption logic. The Admiral frowned. Explain. Elias folded his hands. Most species design systems for stability. Humans design for survival. When we know something will chase us, we don't run straight. We run strange. Corvin stared at him. You rewrote the jump drive to be unpredictable. Yes. It could have exploded. Yes. You risked her life. I gave her a chance. Silence filled the room again. Then the Admiral spoke quietly. You believe this war can end. I believe it must. Across the galaxy, something unexpected was happening. The escape pod had not simply survived. It had transmitted. Liara had accessed the pod's emergency beacon, not to request rescue, but to broadcast a message. To both civilizations. Her face appeared on countless screens. Human stations. Olori cities. Neutral trade hubs. She stood in a dim cabin, Kale sleeping peacefully in her arms. My people, she began softly, and the people of Earth. The galaxy leaned closer. A human saved my child. Her voice did not tremble. He did not ask my title. He did not ask my allegiance. He saw only life. In Terran command centers, officers froze. In Allori councils, elders whispered in shock. The war has taken much from us, Liara continued. It has taken my sister. It has taken your sons and daughters. But it has not taken compassion. She paused. If our enemy can show mercy in the ruins of battle, what excuse do we have? The broadcast spread faster than fleets ever could. Humans watched quietly. Allori listened in silence. And for the first time in 7 years, the narrative cracked. Back in his cell, Elias was unaware of the broadcast. Until the door opened again. Not with anger, but urgency. Admiral Corvin entered, holding a tablet. You should see this. He placed it on the table. Liara's message played. Elias listened without moving. When it ended, the Admiral spoke carefully. Allori Prime has requested emergency dialogue. Elias looked up. They trust her. She is the last surviving heir. And now she carries a story. Corvin studied him in a new way. You understand what this means? Elias nodded slowly. It means the galaxy is tired. The Admiral walked to the door. You are still under investigation, he said firmly. Of course. But, Corvin added, pausing, you may have done more with one act of defiance than fleets have done in years. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Humans are stubborn. Weeks passed. Negotiations began. Not because of treaties. Not because of threats. But because one undeniable truth echoed across both civilizations. A human doctor saved an alien child when it would have been easier not to. On Allori Prime, Liara stood before her council. Kale now ran beside her, fully healed. She carried no weapon. Only her words. We were taught humans are reckless, she told her people. We were told they are dangerous. She paused. They are. A ripple of confusion moved through the chamber. They are dangerous to hopelessness. Dangerous to hatred. Dangerous to cycles that refuse to break. Meanwhile, on Earth, debates raged. Some called Elias a traitor. Others called him a hero. He called himself tired. Eventually, the charges were reduced. Officially, he had acted outside protocol but within humanitarian mandate. Unofficially, he had become something more powerful than a soldier. A symbol. Months later, on a neutral station orbiting a quiet star, two delegations met. No armies. No weapons. Just conversation. Liara walked into the chamber first. Elias entered moments later, wearing civilian medical attire. They saw each other across the room. No smoke. No ruins. Just light. Kale ran forward excitedly. Doctor, he called. Elias knelt and caught him easily. You look much less feverish, Elias said warmly. I can breathe, Kale replied proudly. Liara approached slowly. You changed everything, she said. Elias shook his head. No. We all did. She studied him carefully. You once said humans are good at madness. We are. And this, she gestured to the peaceful chamber, is that madness. Elias smiled. Sometimes madness is just courage wearing strange clothes. The delegations took their seats. Outside, stars burned quietly. For the first time in years, no fleets moved toward war. Because one human refused to follow a simple rule. That enemies must remain enemies. The galaxy learned something important that day. Humans are not the strongest species. Not the oldest. Not the most advanced. But when faced with impossible odds, when surrounded by smoke and fear, when told to step back and obey, humans step forward instead. They improvise. They protect. They create solutions no one expects. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything. The war did not end overnight. Peace never does. But it began in a ruined hut, with a child's fever, and a doctor who chose compassion over orders. The galaxy would remember that. Because when humanity says no to despair, the universe listens.